It's performance review day. The air in the conference room is thick with that fake corporate freshness, lemon-scented cleaner trying to mask 3 years of broken dreams. I'm sitting there in my best blazer, the one I bought specifically for moments like this. My hands are folded neatly on the table so he can't see them shaking. My heart is pounding so hard I swear the cheap fluorescent lights are flickering in rhythm. Across from me sits Richard, my boss of 4 years. Slicked back hair starting to thin at the crown, gold watch that costs more than my monthly rent, and that permanent smirk that says he already knows he's the smartest person in any room. I slide my carefully prepared folder across the table. Inside, metrics, client testimonials, revenue I personally brought in, numbers that would make any sane manager weep with joy. I take a breath. Richard, I've more than earned a raise. Actually 3 times now I've asked, and 3 times I've been told next quarter. I'm not leaving this room without one. He doesn't even open the folder. He leans back, crosses his arms, and laughs. Not a chuckle, a full belly-deep, mocking laugh that echoes off the glass walls. Then he leans forward, voice dripping with venom, loud enough for the entire open-plan office to hear. Sarah, sweetheart, people like you don't get raises. People like you are replaceable. Be grateful you even have a job in this economy. The room goes dead silent. 30 co-workers pretending to type, but every single one of them heard it. My face burns, my throat closes. Something inside me cracks, not quietly. It shatters like glass under a boot. In that moment, as the humiliation sinks into my bones, one single thought crystallizes with perfect ice-cold clarity. If he thinks I'm replaceable, fine. I'm about to show him exactly how expensive replacing me really is. And when I'm done, he won't just lose $30,000, he'll lose everything. Stick with me, because this is the story of how one greedy, arrogant man learned that underestimating the quiet girl in accounting was the most expensive mistake of his life. If you've ever had a boss who treated you like garbage, who made you feel small, who thought they could step on you without consequence, this story is for you. Hit that like button right now if you believe karma always collects, and subscribe with notifications on, because we're about to serve up one of the most delicious plates of workplace justice you've ever tasted. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we turn the best Reddit revenge stories into full-blown cinematic experiences. Today's tale comes from r/pro revenge, and trust me, it's a masterclass in malicious compliance with a side of cold, hard cash. Our protagonist, let's call her Sarah, because that's the name she used when she posted this, is 29 years old when the story starts. She's the kind of employee every company claims they want, reliable, overqualified, and criminally underpaid. Sarah graduated top of her class in accounting, landed a junior position at a mid-sized logistics firm we'll call Transnational Freight. Within 2 years, she's running half the department by herself. Clients love her. Numbers never lie, and hers are flawless. Her direct boss, Richard Hargrove, 47, divorced twice, drives a leased BMW he can barely afford the payments on, and has the empathy of a shark in a feeding frenzy. Richard's philosophy was simple: squeeze every drop of work out of his team, take credit upstairs, and keep salaries frozen until the market stabilizes. Translation: forever. Year 1. Sarah asks for a raise after saving the company $87,000 in tax penalties by catching errors the previous accountant missed. Richard's response: "Great job, Sarah. Really shows initiative. We'll revisit compensation next review cycle." Year 2. Sarah single-handedly implements a new invoicing system that cuts processing time by 40% and brings in an extra $220,000 in early payments. Review time comes. She sits down, heart full of hope. Richard sighs dramatically. "Sarah, I'd love to give you more money, but corporate is tightening belts. Maybe next year when bonuses come around." She leaves the meeting with a $500 performance gift card to Olive Garden and a pat on the head. By year 3, Sarah is making $52,000 a year, less than the new college hires in marketing who play ping pong half the day. She's the only one who knows how to run the custom reports that keep their biggest client, a national retailer worth millions in annual revenue, happy. She's exhausted. She's crying in her car after work. She's eating instant noodles while Richard posts Instagram stories from steakhouse client dinners on the company dime. And then comes the fateful 3rd review. That's the meeting I opened with, the one where he laughed in her face and called her replaceable in front of the entire floor. Sarah told me later that walking out of that room felt like drowning in slow motion. Her cheeks were on fire. She could feel every pair of eyes burning into her back. One co-worker, Mark from IT, actually mouthed, "I'm so sorry," as she passed. She went to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and just broke. Silent, shoulder-shaking sobs while staring at her reflection in the toilet paper dispenser. But something shifted that day. The tears dried up, and in their place came a cold, razor-sharp focus. Sarah realized begging wasn't working. Being the perfect employee wasn't working. If Richard wanted to play dirty, fine. She would follow every rule, every policy, every word he ever uttered, to the letter. That, my friends, is where the malicious compliance begins. Phase 1. Documentation. That same afternoon, Sarah started a private Gmail folder titled Insurance. Every email, every Slack message, every performance review, screenshot and saved. She began CCing herself on everything. She kept a daily log with dates, times, and exact quotes. She also started paying very close attention to Richard's creative accounting habits. See, Richard wasn't just cheap, he was shady. To hit his own bonuses, he'd been reclassifying expenses for years. Client entertainment budgets turned into personal expenses. Vendor kickbacks funneled through fake consulting invoices. Nothing huge on its own, $800 here, $1,200 there, but over 4 years. It added up. Sarah knew about all of it because she was the one processing the payments. And Richard? He trusted her completely. Why wouldn't he? She was quiet little Sarah, who never complained. Big mistake. Phase 2. The trap. 2 weeks after the public humiliation, the company announced mandatory leadership training for managers. Part of it was a new policy. All expense reports over $5,000 now required dual sign-off, manager and one department member. Guess who Richard picked as his permanent second signatory? Sarah, because she knew the system best. Perfect. Sarah started signing every single one, exactly as presented. She didn't question the $9,400 team-building retreat at a Vegas resort that somehow only Richard and his golf buddies attended. She didn't blink at the $6,200 software consulting invoice from a company registered to Richard's brother-in-law. She just stamped approved with her neat little signature every single time. Meanwhile, she was building her case. She discovered that Richard had denied not just her raises, but every woman on the team for the last 3 years while giving the guys market adjustments. Classic discrimination goldmine. She found emails where he bragged to another manager about keeping the girls hungry so they work harder. And the cherry on top. The company had just been acquired by a much larger public corporation with strict Sarbanes-Oxley compliance rules. Translation: financial fraud equals instant termination plus possible criminal charges. Sarah waited. She waited 4 agonizing months. Every day she smiled at Richard, brought him coffee when he barked, stayed late to help the team. Inside, she was a volcano counting down to eruption. Then came the final trigger. The big client, the national retailer, requested a custom audit report that only Sarah knew how to generate. It was complex, took her about 20 hours total, and was due in 2 weeks. Richard scheduled it for the same week Sarah had already booked off for her grandmother's 85th birthday, a trip planned 6 months earlier, approved in writing. 2 days before the deadline, Richard corners her. "Sarah, that audit needs to be perfect. You're cancelling your vacation." Sarah's heart raced. This was it. "But Richard, you approved my PTO in February. It's in the system." He smirked. "Things change. Be a team player or start updating your resume." He actually said that, out loud, in the break room, with witnesses. That night, Sarah made 3 phone calls. First, to an employment lawyer recommended by a friend. Second, to the whistleblower hotline of the new parent company. Third, to her therapist, because even revenge warriors need to process rage crying. The plan was locked in. The next morning, Sarah walked into Richard's office with a printed copy of the company handbook highlighted in neon yellow. She placed it on his desk and said, calmly, "Richard, the employee handbook states that approved PTO can only be revoked with 30 days' notice or in case of declared emergency. There is no emergency. I will be taking my approved vacation starting Friday. The audit report will be completed when I return." His face turned purple. "You will have that report on my desk by Thursday close of business or you're fired." Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile she'd given him in years. "In writing, please." He typed up the threat in about 30 seconds and hit send to her and HR. Checkmate. Sarah went on vacation. She turned off her phone. She sat on her grandmother's porch swing, drinking sweet tea, while Richard apparently had a full meltdown, screaming at anyone who would listen that Sarah was insubordinate. The audit was late. The client threatened to pull their contract, worth $4.2 million annually. Upper management lost their minds, and that's when the whistleblower report landed. Anonymous, of course. Sent from a public library computer during Sarah's vacation. Attached, 4 years of expense fraud, discriminatory emails, and every single report Sarah had dutifully co-signed. The parent company's internal audit team descended like avenging angels. They found over $30,000 in provable personal expenses Richard had run through the company. They found the discriminatory patterns. They found the threatening email. 3 days after Sarah returned from vacation, tanned, rested and ready, she was called into a meeting with HR and 2 very serious-looking executives from corporate. Richard was already in the room, sweating bullets. They laid out everything. Richard tried to blame Sarah. "She signed off on all of it. She's complicit." The executive turned to Sarah. "Ms. Thompson, did you ever raise concerns about these expenses?" Sarah opened her folder, the one she'd been building for months, and slid across printed emails dating back 2 years, where she had, in fact, flagged questionable items, only to be overruled by Richard in writing. The room went silent. Richard was escorted out that afternoon. No severance, no references, just a non-disclosure agreement and the quiet promise of criminal referral if he ever spoke about it. The company settled with Sarah the next week to make the whole thing disappear quietly. $30,000 exactly, the amount Richard had stolen, plus her back raise, plus a promotion and transfer to a new department at almost double her old salary. And the best part? 6 months later, Sarah heard through the grapevine that Richard's wife left him when she found out about the fraud and the client dinners that were actually dates. His BMW got repossessed. He applied to every logistics firm in the state and kept getting mysteriously rejected. Turns out the industry is smaller than he thought. Let me take you into that conference room. Really into it. The air conditioning is set to Arctic, like corporate always does when they're about to fire someone. They want you physically uncomfortable on top of everything else. The table is cold glass. There are 5 people in the room besides Sarah. The CFO from the new parent company, a woman in her 50s with a stare that could freeze lava. The head of internal audit, bald, wire-rimmed glasses, carrying a folder thick enough to kill a man. HR VP Karen, who once told Sarah, "Sometimes you just have to smile and take it." Security Officer Daniels, 6'4", ex-military, standing by the door with his hands clasped like he's done this 100 times. And Richard. Richard looks like he's been sleeping in his suit for 3 days. There's a coffee stain shaped like Australia on his tie. His eyes are bloodshot, and when Sarah walks in, he flinches. Actually flinches, like she's the one holding the axe. The CFO doesn't waste time. Mr. Hargrove, over the past 8 business days we have conducted a full forensic review of your department's financials. We found $31,247 in unauthorized personal expenditures. We found a pattern of gender-based compensation discrimination that exposes this company to multi-million-dollar class action liability. And we found an email sent 6 days ago in which you threatened to terminate an employee for taking pre-approved PTO. That employee is sitting in this room. She turns to Sarah. Ms. Thompson, would you like to say anything before we proceed? Sarah stands up slowly. She's wearing the exact same navy blazer from the day he laughed in her face, but today she's paired it with a silk blouse the colour of fresh blood. She opens the leather portfolio she's been carrying for 4 months and starts laying things on the table like a poker player, revealing a royal flush. First sheet, a printed email from 2 years ago. Subject, questionable expense, $1,200 consulting fee to Hargrove Holdings, LLC. Her note, Richard, this appears to be your brother-in-law's company. Is this correct? His reply, mind your own business and process it. R. Second sheet, the $9,400 Vegas team building retreat invoice. Third, the $6,200 software consulting to a shell company in Delaware. She has 37 sheets in total, 37 landmines, all co-signed by her under direct order. Richard is sweating so hard there's a visible wet ring under his arms. Sarah, he croaks, voice cracking like a teenager. You knew what these were. You signed them. You're part of this. Sarah doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. The room is so quiet you can hear the air conditioning hum. Richard, every single one of those expenses came with a direct instruction from you, in writing. Approve it. Don't ask questions. This is how we do things here. I have every email, every Slack, every post-it note you stuck on my monitor that said, just sign it, sweetheart. She pulls out the final document, the printed company policy manual, page 47, highlighted in neon yellow. And when I finally followed a policy you didn't like, the one about approved vacation time, you threatened to fire me, in writing, CC'd to HR. She turns to the CFO. I never wanted this to go nuclear. I asked for a raise 3 times. I was publicly humiliated. I was told I was replaceable. So I did exactly what I was trained to do. I followed every rule, every instruction, every order, to the letter. The CFO closes her folder with a soft final snap. Mr. Hargrove, your employment is terminated effective immediately for gross misconduct and violation of Sarbanes-Oxley, Section 802. You will be escorted to your office to collect personal belongings only. All company electronics stay here. You are not to contact any current employee. Any attempt to do so will be considered retaliation and reported to the authorities. Richard's mouth opens and closes like a fish drowning in air. Security Officer Daniels steps forward. Richard finds his voice. It comes out high, panicked, desperate. This is bullshit. She set me up. She's been planning this the whole time. Sarah finally looks him dead in the eye. No, Richard, you set yourself up. Every single time you stole from the company, every time you denied me, denied all the women on the team what we earned. Every time you opened your mouth and reminded me exactly who you are. She leans in just enough for only him to hear the last part. You told me I was replaceable. Remember that. Turns out the only replaceable person in this room is you. Richard lunges up from his chair, not at her, just pure blind panic, and knocks over his water glass. It shatters on the tile floor like a gunshot. Daniels has him by the elbow before he even straightens fully. As they drag him toward the door, Richard starts begging. Actually begging. "Sarah, please. I have kids. I have alimony. I'm sorry. I'll pay it back. The door closes behind him with a soft, expensive click. The CFO turns to Sarah. "Ms. Thompson, the company would like to resolve this discreetly. We're prepared to offer you a settlement of $31,247, the exact amount misappropriated, plus retroactive pay increases for the last 3 years, plus a promotion to senior financial controller in our new corporate office downtown. Starting salary $118,000. You'll report directly to me." Sarah doesn't cheer, doesn't cry. She just nods once. "And Richard? He's done. In this industry, forever. We've already notified the state licensing board. Attempting to explain 31,000 in provable fraud on a job application tends to limit one's options." 2 weeks later, the cherry on top arrives in the form of an email forward from a friend still at the old company. Richard had showed up to his first post-firing interview, some tiny logistics startup, only to be walked out by security 5 minutes later. Word travels fast when a parent company the size of theirs puts out a quiet industry alert. His LinkedIn is a graveyard. His BMW was repossessed in the parking lot of a Denny's. His ex-wife filed to revisit alimony now that he's voluntarily unemployed. And Sarah? Sarah is sitting in her new corner office on the 28th floor, drinking an actually good cup of coffee, watching the city skyline glitter at sunset. She raises the mug in a silent toast to the empty air where Richard's smug face used to be. Justice doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just clicks the door shut behind you and hands you the keys to everything the bully swore you'd never have. And that, my friends, is the sound of pure, ice-cold, delicious revenge. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it just clicks. One quiet signature at a time. One rule followed perfectly. One woman who decided her dignity was worth more than any paycheck. Richard thought he was untouchable. Sarah proved that no one is. And that, my friends, is how you turn humiliation into a $30,000 receipt and a one-way ticket to unemployment for the boss from hell. If this story had you fist-pumping, screaming yes at your screen, or finally feeling seen after your own workplace nightmare, smash that like button harder than Richard's career hit the ground. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever maliciously complied your way to sweet revenge? What's the pettiest or proest thing you've done to a terrible boss? Subscribe and hit the bell because next morning we've got an even wilder one. A cheating husband, a hidden camera, and a divorce settlement that broke the internet. Until then, stay savage, stay smart, and never let them forget your name. See you in the next one.